Hey, what's going on everyone? Jay's 2 cents here, and it's springtime. People are getting ready to have spring break and play on their gaming PCs and stuff, or maybe you don't have a gaming PC. So we're gonna be doing a video today actually about iBuyPower. Now before you get all SIs and click off, I wanna talk about system integrators and why they're actually a really important piece of the entire PC genre component. So stick around, we're gonna actually do something really cool. We're gonna watch this system get built. We're gonna go tour the facility, and I'm gonna tell you right now, spoiler alert, it's a lot more involved than I ever thought it was. So anyway, once again, a huge thank you to iBuyPower for sponsoring this video tour. But anyway, we're gonna start here with their website because of the fact that they have two kind of ways you can get a gaming PC from them. Laptops aside, we're not talking about laptops, we're talking about gaming towers. They have their RDY pre-built systems, which you can see right here. You can go and check them out at iBuyPower.com. But these are systems that are already built, ready to go, spec'd out. They have their pricing right here. That's cool because you could just come in, click buy, it ships in a couple of days. In fact, they're having like a spring break sale right now, so I highly recommend going and checking that out. But I'm not interested in that. I'm personally interested in over here, the custom gaming PCs with their configurator. This is where you tell them what system you want them to build, and they will build it for you. Now, one of the cool things about the configurator is the fact that they actually have folks on staff, like full-time experts in a particular category, that are constantly validating compatibility between parts. And that doesn't mean, does this motherboard fit in this case? It is, does this motherboard with this BIOS revision, with this particular RAM set work with this CPU? Like deep dive type of configurations that are being checked out. That way there's maximum compatibility for the end user. None of that, I've got an AMD 7800 X3D, which is super picky when it comes to RAM and such, and so you're not accidentally speccing RAM bundles together with it that might give you headaches from day one and never be able to run any of the AMD Expo profiles. So they're constantly checking that sort of stuff. So that's what I think is really neat. One of the things we'll look at in here for a sec is what a bad configuration looks like. But I'm gonna spec a system right now, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna see the parts that are available, see how the configurator works, and then we're going to go to iBuyPower, and we're gonna follow that system from order form all the way to the shipping department and see what the entire process looks like and what's involved. We'll also be taking a look at their RMA center because I think that's really important when it comes to a pre-built system, because that is first and foremost the most important thing for most people who are not interested in building a computer. They're most interested in what's the warranty and what does the support look like. Because if you're not very savvy when it comes to computers and troubleshooting, you need that assistance. So we're gonna take a look at that because I think that is the most important component when it comes to an SI. So as you can see right here, they've got some sort of pre-built systems like Configurator 1, Intel, AMD, Configurator 2, AMD, Intel. So they're kind of like starting points where you can then go in and sort of manipulate the parts from there. Maybe we'll start with Intel Configurator 3. Let's see what happens. So my kind of goal with this one here is gonna be, what is a good upper end PC that's gonna last me for 5 years with modern titles getting a bit more demanding, where I'm not gonna feel like in a couple of years I'm already upgrading and stuff. So I'm kind of spending more up front to have a longer relative lifespan of that system. So let's see what we can do in cases. Oh, this is pretty neat too. So if you guys aren't aware, Height is actually the in-house brand of iBuyPower. So that's like their case brand component under the iBuyPower like corporate umbrella. But they don't only sell Height cases. Like a lot of other case manufacturers that are also SIs and such will only sell their case brand. And that really, I think, turns off a lot of buyers because they might be interested in a different case than what they have to offer. But as you can see here, we have Height, we have Fractal North, we've got some iBuyPower cases there. We've got, I didn't know AData even made a case, but they do. We got Be Quiet, Lee and Lee, of course. They've got Dynamic O11s, they got H9s. They've got all kinds of stuff going on here. So I kind of want to do a Y70 though. So we're gonna do that. So you can see it's gonna cost me 59 extra bucks to do a Y70. So now if I can scroll down or I can just click processor. See 14700KF, perfectly fine with that CPU. I don't feel like we need to go 14900K. Cooling, I'm gonna care about getting as much cooling as I possibly can in this simply because of the fact that we are dealing with a 14700K, right? And Intel does like a lot of juice, if you will. So I wanna upgrade from a 240 AIO, which they currently have selected the NZXT Kraken 240. Again, they've got an iBuyPower branded deep cool cooler right here, and NZXT is pre-selected. So I really like seeing the brand agnostic ideology here of not just pre-configure our own components in there. So that's kind of nice to see. But let's go down here to 360 millimeter coolers. You know what, so they're both LS720s. I'm gonna go with the iBuyPower branded one. We'll just show some iBuyPower love right there. Let's go with our memory. This is where it's nice because at the top here, you can see estimated ship date. You can see the power supply wattage needed. So you see our power supply is a 700 watt power supply. We're at 684. So clearly we're gonna have to upgrade our power supply if we upgrade our GPU. And in my opinion, we're a little too close to that max wattage anyway. So I'll probably end up changing that. Actually, you know what's kind of cool right here with RAM? They actually have a free upgrade happening right now where it says certified major brand gaming. So they're automatically upgrading our RAM to a major brand. And in this case, it's the Team Group T-Force Delta RGB at 6,000 megahertz, two 16 gigabyte sticks. That's perfect. We don't have 4 sticks to worry about with overclocking and stuff. So I see no reason to change the RAM at all right there. In fact, anything else I select would be an additional cost, as you can see. So that's 32 gigs of 6,000. There's no reason to change that at all. Video card, I want a little more than a 4070 Super. Here's the MSI Ventus X or 3XOC. I'm kind of okay with that card because as you can see, it's plus 551. The Ventus is much closer to an MSRP card than say, like a TUF, or not even a TUF, but like a Strix or something like that. So I see we've talked about the fact that you can easily overpay for a graphics card by going with some super boutique tier of a brand. So we're gonna go ahead and stick with, dude, a 4090 would be plus 1335. That's why the 4080 Super is so nice, because as you can see, it is almost, it's just over a third of that additional cost, and it gets us actually pretty close performance to a 4090. Close enough anyway. So we're gonna go with that. We're gonna go with the MSI card. Uh-oh, it's red now because we were requiring too much wattage. So clearly and look, we even got an asterisk right here in our power supply. So we're gonna now go to our power supply. We'll skip the motherboard. We're going to power supply first. And I'm thinking maybe 1,000 watt would be a good buffer. That's about 200 watts more than it's showing that we need right here. So here we go. For an extra 84 bucks, I can get 1,000 watt Be Quiet. It's an 80 plus gold. It's also a Gen 5 PSU. So that means it's gonna have a native 12 volt high power adapter, which means no adapters or plugs. So no adapters or any of that stuff needed. So we'll go with that. Hey, we're green once again up here. So that's nice. You know, I'm gonna continue with the MSI love here. Let's go down to MSI. Let's see what we've got here. So we've got the Z790 Carbon Wi-Fi at plus 288. So that's actually a significant amount of extra money. Or the MSI Pro at no extra money right there. Cool, so we'll just go with that, no extra money. Our power supply is good. So let's look at our storage. What are they giving us by default? A 1 terabyte Western Digital Blue SN580. I think I wanna go with a larger drive though, only because of the fact that we're only gonna put 1 drive in this right now. So 1 terabyte can tend to fill up pretty quickly when it comes to modern games. So I'm gonna go with a 2 terabyte drive. Yeah, for plus 67 versus like plus 140, 150 over here. So yeah, we'll go with the ADATA. It's been a while since I've used ADATA, so it gives me a chance to play around with that again. So we've got a Gen 4 read of 7,400 megabytes a second and a write of 6,800. So it's a little bit split on the read-write, but that's okay, we'll go with that. There's even a rush service where it says it ships out in 3 business days. Typically it's estimated 5 business days. That's an extra 80 bucks. We don't need that. Ship video card uninstalled and packaged separately. Customers responsible for installing. Protect during your investment during transportation. So standard packaging, that's fine. We're gonna go with the ship separately. I'm aware that I'm the one responsible for putting it in. I think I know what I'm doing. The fans are under case and I want to add additional fans because I want all the fan slots to be populated. So the way they operate is if the case comes with any fans pre-installed and you select fans that you want to add, they will populate all the fan slots with the fans that you've added. They'll take the case fans out, but they'll ship them with the system separately in the accessory box. That way you still have the fans that came with it if we have use for them somewhere else. I think the deep cool fans, so they match the cooler. Yeah, 3 times deep cool CF120 plus. All right, so there we go. So down here we also have an FPS calculator. So Valorant, it's saying we should get 445 FPS in 1440. What other games are on here? Oh, League of Legends, look at that. Really, we get less FPS in League of Legends? Interesting. What about GTA 5? 185 FPS in 1440, makes sense. GTA 5 is not the most optimized title there is. There we go, that's the configurator. I know we kind of took a little bit of time on that, but now that we've configured the system, let's go ahead and I'm gonna submit the order. We're gonna wait. We're gonna come up with a day and time to go meet up with iBuyPower, and then they are going to build it right there with us watching. So here we are, we made it to iBuyPower here in Southern California. So there's a lot to kind of take in and unpack, no pun intended. So you guys saw the build sheet that we kind of came up with and the parts we want to use using their configurator. Now before we go and start seeing the process of how it gets built and qualified and prepared for shipping and shipped and all that, I want to show you guys how they come up with kind of like that configurator and how they know what parts do and don't work together and their recommendations. So let's go check out the lab. So admittedly, we've already had the tour. This is honestly my favorite spot. You would think building the computers is, but no, this is the lab. This is where they do a lot of the parts validation, parts testing. There's kind of known configuration problems that maybe has come up in the past with previous builds. They can take those components here, actually recreate a customer's build, or take the build specifically here and start to do actual product testing. So we've got RAM and SSD specialists here, we've got power supply specialists, cooler specialists. Every component of the system has basically an expert that goes along with it, and their job is to make sure that everything is working and validated as expected. But it's not just parts that maybe aren't compatible with each other, it's new parts that come out. You guys know RAM is always pushing the envelope, especially with DDR5 and very fast transfer rates now, well over 8,000 megahertz. And you know that you can't just drop that RAM in with any CPU, whether it be Intel or AMD, and have it just automatically be working with AMD Expo or XMP. So their job here is to make sure that all of those validations are working as intended. And what they'll also do is kind of put limits on where you can sort of start to spec components to make sure that you're not running into a compatibility problem. They would give recommendations that say, hey, let's not go above 6,000 megahertz RAM or 5600 with this CPU or whatever, because of the fact that they're physically checking and testing those configurations to make sure that the customer gets an actual working product on the other end of the build. So you guys remember the parts that I chose using the configurator, because I chose to do a custom build rather than one of the pre-assembled systems that have their own SKU number that are ready to go that you can just buy, have shipped in a couple of days to you, and then you're up and running. I wanted to do a custom build because I wanted to see the process. So this is what the sheet pretty much looks like. I'm not going to show you too much detail there because there is sensitive information on here. But it's got all the parts and stuff that we chose. I don't see any asterisks or anything saying non-compatible or out of stock or any of that. So theoretically, we should be able to go to where all the parts and stuff are. They can start pulling this, and then we'll follow this along the entire process. So from today, we should see what you guys saw from the order form, all the way up, well, the configurator, all the way to parts being picked, built, tested, packed, shipped. Theoretically, we'll do will call. Technically, if it's ready to go today, we'll take it with us. Otherwise, we could see if UPS or FedEx want to have a hand at maybe making the lab have to do something. So I don't know, we'll see. All right, let's just go check out the parts. So I mentioned pre-built and systems that are pre-assembled. So all of these are pre-assembled, but if we turn this way, this is only a portion of the building. Like everything you see on this side are their pre-assembled systems that you could buy either direct through them, or they also sell them in a lot of e-tailers and retailers like Best Buy and other electronic stores. This is just one small portion of this 100,000 square foot facility. I just wanted to show you on the way to the parts bin because it's kind of a trek to get over there. Now speaking of parts, if you thought I had a lot of parts, this is just some of them right here. We're talking coolers, cases, power supplies, motherboards, and you'll notice there's no CPUs or graphics cards or memory or RAM because that's all in that half of the building. And this entire row is graphics cards. And this entire row is graphics cards. Restricted area, but not for me. Oh yeah, this is CPU, RAM, and storage. It's not as impressive because they're small parts, but there's lots of them. And this is a bell. I don't know why it's here. So like I already said, when it came to the components in the selection portion, they have a huge range of components, everything from entry-level affordable all the way up to crazy, no, sky's the limit parts. I wanted something that was in like the upper half of a build without going too crazy, but would last for years. So the parts, here they are here, we already went through them. So as our 14700K, our RAM, our Pro 790, our Z790P Wi-Fi from MSI, also the MSI Ventus 3X 4080 Super. So the cooler here is an LS720 iBuyPower branded. It's basically a deep cool cooler that has an iBuyPower logo on the top right here. It is an RGB logo as well. Their fans are also RGB. And then we went with the Deep Cool 3-fan pack to fill out our Y70 case so that we had a lot of lighting without the additional need for strips and stuff, and also enough cooling for these high-end parts. I would say that I chose the iBuyPower branded cooler because of the fact that it's an iBuyPower build. Realistically, I chose it because it says LS, and I like LS engines. So now the fun part begins, where these parts are going to make their way over to the build station, and we are going to watch their builder put it together. I would like to say I'm probably faster than him, but I don't think so. So this is the build station here, or build area, if you will. So all their techs are building systems. It doesn't matter if they're configurator systems or they're RDUI or ready-built systems, which are the pre-builds that you see in like Best Buy, or even the ones that you can buy direct from them on their website. It all gets built right here, including mine. So this cart right here is an example of their RDY or ready-built systems. Like I said, they're pre-assembled systems ready to go and be shipped or bought at a retailer. And they build them basically 10 at a time because the components are all matching. They find it's more efficient for them to build 10 systems at one time using all the same parts. So it's kind of neat. It's like a full assembly line here, but one technician is taking it all the way from 10 sets of parts into 10 fully built RDY systems. All right, so we made it to our build station. This is Gio. Gio's gonna be building my computer. So I have a couple questions for you. One, what are some like standard procedures that you have to make sure you go through every time you build a system?
Usually we start with is what's the important parts. The GPU, motherboard, and CPU. We have to make sure that it's the precise one model.
Okay. So you validate all the parts then to make sure that you receive the right parts. Because sometimes boxes might look similar and might be maybe a non-Wi-Fi or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay. So how long would a build like this tend to take you? There's nothing special, I mean, it's a Y70, we got an AIO, all standard parts.
35 minutes, 45 minutes.
Okay, not too bad. All right, we'll let you do your work. Thanks for letting me bug you, and yeah, I'll be grading you at the end. Not really. All right, so I know it's a little dark, but the system is built now, so Gio's done a great job of that. Everything turned on. Now, he doesn't even check for post. All he checks is to make sure everything powers on, all the fans are turning, the graphics card's turning. There's not even a monitor hooked up to it, because this is now gonna move over to the QC section. And they actually gave me their checklist right here, this is everything from beginning to shipping that gets verified and checked on the system. This whole checklist is gonna happen now. Let's work our way over to the QC and QA area to make sure that burn-in goes well, there's no failures. That's gonna be checking all aspects of our system, CPU, RAM, so let's hope it all passes. So the QC department right now is where they're gonna install Windows, they're gonna install the drivers, update the BIOS like I've said. And if you kind of take a look behind me here, there is a lot of systems currently under QC right now, and that's both sides of this conveyor belt system. The PCs aren't actually moving on the belt. I thought that would have been really cool if they push a button and off it goes to the next thing, but automation, maybe in the future. So anyway, you can see that some of these systems here look like they have fresh Windows installs, because one of the things that they not only do is install their versioning of Windows through imaging and ISOs, because they can just take the drive, put it in an imaging machine that just puts the image on it. So you got Windows on there much faster than installing it. It's just a copy of the drive essentially. They'll go through and install the drivers and such, and then after everything's validated and it's done with its 1 hour and 5 minute OCCT validation, if everything passes, then what they do is they reset Windows basically back to an out-of-box experience where it's like the first time boot up if you've never actually booted Windows before. But it's actually gone through all of its testing and stuff. So that's one of the neat things with dealing with ISOs and out-of-box experience reset. So anyway, he's starting right now. He is doing a BIOS update. So clearly there was a lab validated BIOS that is available for this motherboard, which is just gonna hopefully give us the best settings out of the box, best compatibility with the RAM, the SSDs, and all of that. So that's gonna be a minimum of an 1 hour and 5 minute process. After the imaging is done and the BIOS is updated, that's just the OCCT burn-in. Now that burn-in is also gonna do other things like stress test the CPU, stress test the RAM, stress test the cooler to make sure everything's operating within a predetermined range or spec when it comes to perimeters of those components. So we'll let them do their thing and then we'll follow it off to the next thing. Fingers crossed nothing fails. And yes, they do actually catch failures during that burn-in process. So this is a system here that went through build, went into QC, and then failed. Why it failed is going to be determined by the troubleshooting techs. So if something doesn't pass, it goes over to troubleshooting techs who will then determine what failed and why. So this one's actually written on here, they replaced the RAM. So this had a RAM failure. With the amount of components they're dealing with, it's going to be probably somewhat commonplace that things like RAM or CPUs or whatever might not be functioning properly. So the fact that they do a full burn-in test and check it before it ever reaches the customer gives the highest chance of success that it's going to reach the customer with nothing being wrong. So nice that this one was caught. It's now got to go back through the QC process and start all over. Okay, so you saw the system get built, you saw it get tested, you saw it get verified, validated, installed, all the drivers and such, went off to shipping, got packed. You saw the GPU was removed and it will ship separately because of the fact it's just safer to do it that way. But what happens with an iBuyPower system if you get it home, you're playing games, and after a while something isn't working right, and you've called customer service and you've tried really hard to kind of get it figured out over the phone, and it's just unfortunately not working out that way, and you've got to send the system in. Well, it comes over here. So this is actually the RMA department here, or one aspect of it. They have a lot of different areas where troubleshooting testing goes on. This is where your system is going to end up. So wave if you see your system in the background. But anyway, so you have technicians here that are going to take the information that's been gathered between the customer talking to customer service to try and figure out what the issues are. It gets fixed, handled, repaired, depending on what the warranty issue is. If it's a warranty repair or maybe there's some cost involved, that's determined at the time of repair and what the problem is determined to be. But as you can see, there's a lot going on here because with the amount of volume that iBuyPower actually deals with per year, it's inevitable that something is going to happen. So having a strong RMA department and customer service is extremely important when it comes to an SI. But I thought it was important to show this because of the fact that oftentimes people ask like, well, what does the RMA look like? I mean, I think sometimes people think it might be 1 or 2 people sitting at a desk tinkering with a computer. No, it's a pretty big operation. A big portion of the business too has to be supported with a strong RMA department. And one of the things you'll notice that's pretty consistent throughout this is the fact that things are constantly being QC'd. So for instance, when the system is determined fixed, they send it back out through that whole QC process again to make sure all of the stress tests and validation are coming back exactly as expected. Well, there's a system that's in here, came in for an unrelated problem to something that popped up in the latest QC. So it came in for a problem, that problem was fixed, and during QC, another component that was actually starting to fail popped up, and now that component's getting exchanged and replaced without the customer even knowing that that was about to happen. So that's why it's important to not just, oh, okay, let's say it's a bad power supply, it's not turning on, change the power supply, it's turning on, done, fixed, off it goes. You gotta test all the components again to make sure that everything's working exactly as expected. So it's kind of nice that everything goes through that QC process. That's why there's so many systems out there in QC. Most of those are new builds and RDY builds and configurator builds. But knowing that the fact that every system coming in behind me here that is used and was at some point faulty and now being fixed is going to get that whole checkup once again to make sure that everything's working exactly as it's supposed to. Okay, so now that we've passed QC, the system has made it over here to the shipping department where it's now going to be packed and boxed up and sent over to the dock for shipping. And it's going to end up at its final destination, which for me is going to be at our studio. But you might notice the graphics card was removed and placed back in its box. And the reason for that is because during shipping, the most common component that gets damaged is the graphics card. And if the graphics card causes damage because of weight and droop, it could also damage a PCI Express slot. And they've found that even by loading up the inside of the system with Instapack, which is that expandable foam which we've used in the past, the gentle, loving touch of FedEx and UPS and DHL and whoever else might be shipping this stuff always seem to find a way to make that not be enough. So they've removed the graphics cards on anything 4070 and up due to the cooler size and ship it with the box and has instructions on the case directly to show you how to reinstall the graphics card if you're not familiar with how to do it. Not only that, if you did need additional help, I'm sure the customer service department could also assist if necessary, but they do have the instructions right here. And so the graphics card will need to be installed once it reaches its final destination. The only systems that really don't have the graphics card taken out are systems that are being sent direct to retailers like Micro Center and Best Buy and whoever the other retailers are that they utilize to sell their systems that are built for retail. So you'll notice this red piece of tape across the cardboard here, and this is actually a security piece of tape. So you'll notice that there's packing tape going across to close it with this red security tape that also dyes the box. So if this was cut, you would notice, because the red tape would be cut, that means somebody messed with your package. If they try and tear this off, it stains the package. So this is kind of a neat little feature so you can know if this is intact when you receive it, that means no one's been in there other than iBuyPower when they packed it. Well, here's my cube all done. Now I could easily take it home and cut out shipping altogether. Now if you're local, you could do will call and come and pick it up and you get the notification it's done and come and get it. But I kind of want to see, we have to test their packing material to make sure it can survive the loving, friendly touch of UPS and FedEx. So we're gonna let this get shipped to us. But anyway, that's kind of it for today's video. I thought it was important to really take you along for from conceptualizing a configurator build all the way to this step to show you how much goes involved to bring a system from an order from parts to an assembled, tested rig at arguably one of the largest SIs in the nation. And another thing you guys may not realize too is all of iBuyPower's RMA and customer support is based right here in California. So you're not dealing with overseas call centers or weird time zone differences and stuff. It's all right here in this same building. So anything you need from iBuyPower is all happening in this 100,000 square foot facility. So anyway, that's all for today. I'd like to thank iBuyPower for inviting us to come and kind of tour the facility. A lot of SIs, believe it or not, really don't like showing their operations. But I feel like it's kind of nice to have this transparency because with the exception of knowing there's a lot of expensive items in here, there shouldn't really be any secrets about the way things are done. So full transparency and letting us in and film the process is kind of important to, I think, for consumers to see what actually happens. Now, yeah, you might be saying Jay got white glove experience because they knew he was coming, so they're gonna put their best foot forward. We also have a Secret Shopper series coming where we also are testing this experience without that white glove tour through the facility. And they were like, we're nervous, but we're not nervous. Because actually, if you look at the secret shopper stuff that like both Linus and Steve have done, iBuyPower has actually done really well. And in fact, we've talked about RMA processes in the past and pain points in the past regarding how the brand has grown over time. And with all the volume that was happening during COVID and stuff, there was some growing pains there to meet that demand, and problems slipped through the cracks. And they've really addressed that, which is one of the reasons why I definitely am going to be testing a system separate from this one to see if the experience looks like it's the same. Because I also want to see that process throughout the entire order process, where you're notified of like, hey, the parts were picked, the parts are now being assembled, it's now in QC, it's now in packing and shipping. So you get notified of all that process. So I want to see that from the consumer perspective. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope this has opened your eyes on what it really takes to put out, I'm not going to say the numbers, but lots and lots of systems per day, let alone per year, at this level, and how it's a difficult process, but it seems like they've got it down to a pretty finely tuned machine at this point. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you have an iBuyPower system, sound off down below what your experience has been like, whether it's been good or bad or anything in between. I know they're going to be reading the comments, and they're going to definitely be interested in what you guys have to say as consumers. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.